Dad said, "No gifts this year." Meanwhile, my sister unwrapped an iPhone, a 5K bag, and diamond earrings, while I sat there with nothing. When I asked, "What about me?" my mom slapped me. So, I canceled every account that was funding their entire lifestyle. The slap itself didn't hurt that much. That's the part people rarely talk about. People imagine a slap as something dramatic and overwhelming, the kind of moment that makes everything blur and sends you stumbling backward. They picture tears, shouting, and chaos. What actually happened was quieter, and somehow worse. My mother's palm hit my left cheek at 6:47 p.m. on Christmas Day, in the dining room of the house I had been financially supporting for 3 years. My father, my sister, and my Aunt Diane were all there. My aunt suddenly very focused on the inside of her purse. There was a sharp sound. My head turned slightly from the impact. My sister froze, holding the ribbon of a designer bag in one hand and the box of a brand new iPhone in the other. Then the room went completely silent. I didn't cry. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't even touch my cheek. I just stood there for a moment, 2 seconds, maybe 3, and looked at my mother's face. Not with anger or tears, but with clarity. The kind of clarity you get when you've been looking at something for years and finally see it as it truly is. Then I picked up my coat from the back of the chair, walked to the front door, opened it, and stepped out into the cold December air. No one called after me. Not a single voice. No footsteps. Just the sound of the door closing, my breathing, and the faint hum of distant Christmas lights in the dark. I sat in my car in the driveway and opened my phone. To understand this moment, you need to know who I was before it. My name is Marcus. I'm 26 years old, and I was a software developer at a mid-sized tech company in Atlanta. I graduated early, found a job quickly, and by most measures, I was the success story in my family. I was the first in my immediate family to complete a 4-year degree, the first to earn a stable salary with benefits, a 401k, and my name on a legitimate lease for an apartment. I chose to stay close to my family. My parents and my younger sister, Brianna, lived about 40 minutes away in the house I grew up in, a comfortable home with 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and a backyard. My dad, Raymond, worked part-time at a hardware store after knee surgery 2 years ago, ended his previous job. My mom, Cheryl, worked administrative hours at a dental office, enough to keep benefits, but not enough to significantly support the household. Brianna, 22, took a few community college classes and worked around 12 hours a week at a clothing boutique she often described as networking. To be fair, they weren't bad people. They weren't villains. My childhood was mostly normal, a quiet suburban life where nothing major goes wrong, and you assume that means everything is fine. But somewhere around the time I started earning a real paycheck, things began to shift. Slowly, gradually enough that I didn't question it. I told myself it was just how families work, that this was normal when you're the one who made it. It began with the phone plan. I had 3 lines: mine, a friend who moved out, and a spare. My mom asked to join to save money. I agreed. Then Brianna joined. Then my dad. For lines total, I was paying around $180 a month, and I told myself it was fine because they were family. Then came streaming services. They kept getting locked out of their shared accounts, so I added them to mine. Netflix first, then Hulu during Thanksgiving 1 year for the live TV package. I agreed. It was only about $20 a month. Then Amazon Prime for grocery delivery, which my mom said made her schedule easier. Then Spotify's family plan. My dad's golf handicap app, some subscription costing $19.99 a month that I must have agreed to while half asleep on the couch. Car insurance was the one I thought through carefully. Adding their cars to my policy actually reduced costs after my dad had a minor accident. I ran the numbers. It made sense financially. So I said yes. Then there was the credit card. I opened a rewards card with a high limit when I started earning well. I added my mom as an authorized user after her card was declined once at a pharmacy, and I felt bad. The agreement was simple: emergencies only. She had it for emergencies. You can probably see where this is going. I didn't. Not for a long time. The gifts that Christmas didn't appear suddenly. They came together in stages, which is how I know it was planned. Brianna's iPhone 15 Pro Max, full price. She was already on my unlimited phone plan. The designer bag, something my mom had casually mentioned months earlier, the way people talk about things they expect to have someday. I had looked up the price out of curiosity and then ignored it. around $4,800, discounted from $5,400. Then the diamond earrings, small, elegant, still diamonds. The kind that come in a velvet box inside a white bag with ribbon handles. My sister held them up to the light while my parents smiled proudly. I sat across the table with my hands in my lap. We had all agreed, clearly, in a group chat back in November, no gifts this year. The message was still there. My dad suggested it. My mom agreed with a heart emoji. Brianna gave a thumbs up. I responded, sounds good to me, relieved because I was already financially stretched and trying to rebuild my savings after several months of higher than usual spending I hadn't fully examined yet. I didn't buy anything for anyone because that was the agreement. Dinner continued. The gift unwrapping continued. My sister described each item like she was filming a product review. Look how it catches the light. Oh my God, Mom, this is exactly what I wanted. My parents exchanged satisfied looks. At some point, I don't remember the exact order of words, just the feeling. I realized I had been standing outside, emotionally, for a long time. And I finally spoke. So what about me? For simple words. A fair question. I wasn't angry. My voice was steady. I looked at the pile of bags, tissue paper, velvet boxes, and brand new electronics and asked, what about me? My mother's hand struck my face before I even finished the sentence. A sharp sound. Silence followed. I looked at her. She looked back at me. And in her expression, I saw something that settled everything inside me. Not anger. Not shock. Just confirmation. She wasn't upset about what she had done. She was annoyed that I had asked. I picked up my coat and walked out. I sat in my car in the driveway for about 11 minutes. I know because I tend to notice timestamps. It might be a developer habit or just something personal. When I checked my phone, it read 6:53 p.m.b.y 7:04 p.m. I had completed every cancellation that could be done from my phone. I want to explain the feeling because it matters. People assume I was shaking with anger, crying, or struggling to hold the phone steady. That wasn't the case. I was calm, completely, almost unusually calm. My face still had a faint sting where I'd been hit, the kind that lingers after impact. Not exactly pain, more like warmth. And my thoughts were very, very clear. I opened the carrier app first, went to account management, and pulled up the lines. My sister's line, remove. Confirm. My dad's line, remove. Confirm. My mom's line, remove. Confirm. 3 lines gone in under 2 minutes. Effective immediately. Next was Netflix. I opened the app, went to account settings, removed all additional profiles, and then canceled the subscription entirely. It would remain active until the end of the billing cycle, but they would be logged out by morning. Hulu, same process. Canceled. Amazon Prime. I removed all household members, then canceled the service. I could always restart it later if needed. The free trial had expired long ago anyway. Spotify. I removed family members from the plan and downgraded to an individual account. The golf app. I hesitated for a brief moment, almost feeling guilty. Then I remembered my father had watched silently while my mother slapped me and returned to his meal. I canceled it without pause. The car insurance required a phone call, which I expected. I dialed the 24-hour support line, provided my policy number, and told the representative I wanted to remove all additional drivers except myself. Are you sure? She asked. Removing drivers mid-policy will affect their coverage immediately. Very sure, I replied. She processed the request, read back the confirmation number, and I thanked her. Then came the credit card. I opened the last 3 months of statements. I told myself I didn't need to examine them too closely. I had always said the card was for emergencies, and I believed that, mostly because it was easier than questioning it. October showed $340 in salon charges, $89 at a restaurant I didn't recognize, and $210 at a clothing store. November included $612 at another clothing retailer, $45 at a nail salon, and $180 in accessories. December, for $1,847. I paused at that number. The bag, the $4,800 one my sister was currently photographing inside the house, had been paid for using my card. The same card meant for emergencies. I called the number on the back. I need to report my card as lost, I said, and have a replacement issued to my address only. The representative was calm and professional. She confirmed the address, my apartment, not my parents' house. because I had never changed it. She canceled the card, issued a replacement, and confirmed that the authorized user, my mother, would no longer have access. The existing card will be deactivated within the hour, she said. Thank you, I replied. I placed the phone in my lap and looked at the house, the warm lights in the windows, the faint sound of what might have been my sister laughing. Then I started the car and drove to the Marriott 8 minutes away. I checked in, got a room on the 4th floor, ordered a club sandwich and a Coke through room service, and watched a movie I had been planning to see for 2 months. I took a shower, set the thermostat to my preferred temperature, and got into bed with clean sheets that carried the faint scent of industrial detergent, which, honestly, I find comforting when I'm exhausted. I slept from 10:30 p.m. to 7:18 a.m. without waking. I couldn't remember the last time I had slept that well. My phone was face down on the nightstand. I had turned off the ringer, but I already knew, clearly and logically, what the morning would bring. 7:43 a.m., a message from my mom. The TV isn't working. 7:44 a.m., my dad. Hey, son. The insurance app says there's an issue with our policy. 7:44 a.m., 30 seconds later, Brianna. My phone says I'm not on the plan anymore. I read all 3 messages and placed the phone face down again. I made coffee using the small machine in the hotel room, the kind with thin packets that never brew strong enough, yet still feel satisfying. Then I sat by the window and watched Atlanta wake up on a cold December 26th morning. At 8:15, my dad called. I let it ring. At 8:17, my mom called. I let it ring. At 8:20, my sister called 3 times in a row. I let it ring each time. At 8:31, my dad sent a text. Son, I think there might have been some kind of mistake with the accounts. Can you call us when you get a chance? A mistake. 3 years of payments. A slap in front of the entire family. My sister inside a house I had helped support, holding a $4,800 bag charged to my card. And he called it a mistake. I replied with one sentence. No mistake, Dad. Merry Christmas. I sent it, set the phone down, and finished my coffee. Then it buzzed again, not a call or message from family, but an email from someone I hadn't expected. Derek Okafor. Subject line, we need to talk about the lease. I felt a drop in my stomach as I realized something I had overlooked. My name was on their apartment lease. Derek was Brianna's boyfriend of 2 years, a decent person, or at least I believed so. Quiet, polite, working in logistics. When they decided to move in together about a year ago, Brianna's credit score wasn't strong enough. Derek had approached me, not my parents, and asked if I would co-sign the lease. He had been organized about it. He showed income records, employment history, and explained that Brianna would improve her credit, and within a year they would refinance and remove my name. I agreed because they were family. The lease ran through August, 8 months away. I opened the email with a specific kind of tension, the kind that sits in your throat. Marcus, I assume you're aware of what happened last night with the phone plan. We woke up this morning and Brianna's phone isn't working, which I understand given the situation. However, I need to speak with you urgently about the lease. As a co-signer, you have certain responsibilities. I'm not threatening you. I just think we need to discuss how to proceed. The tone was calm, measured, almost legal. I read it twice. Then I did something I should have done before co-signing any lease. I contacted a lawyer. Her name was Patricia Bonsu, a tenant and contract attorney I found through a bar referral service on December 26th at 9:15 a.m. She agreed to a brief paid consultation, $150 for 30 minutes. She mentioned that the holidays often bring a surprising number of urgent lease issues. Co-signing a lease means you are equally responsible for the rent, she explained, professionally and clearly. If they default, you're still responsible, she said. I understand that, I replied. What I need to know is whether I can exit the agreement, given that my relationship with them has significantly changed. There was a brief pause. Walk me through the current situation, she said. I explained everything. The payments, the credit card, Christmas, the incident. Another short pause followed. The physical altercation is relevant, she said. Not directly to the lease, since that's a civil matter, but it does affect the overall situation you're dealing with. She outlined my options. I could request that the landlord remove me as a co-signer, which would require their approval and Derek qualifying independently. Given that he had a year to improve his financial standing, that might now be possible. I could also document the incident, and consult a family or civil attorney regarding the assault. In the meantime, I should monitor payments closely to limit my financial risk. My strongest advice, she added, is to communicate only in writing from this point forward. Avoid phone calls unless they are recorded. Use email or text. That's my plan, I said. Good. A short pause. I'm sorry this happened to you, especially on Christmas. Thank you, I replied. I appreciate that. After the call ended, I sat with the phone in my hand. That simple sentence, I'm sorry this happened to you, was the first acknowledgement I had received in 24 hours that addressed what had actually occurred. I emailed Derek from the hotel. Hi, Derek. I'm aware of the situation and have spoken with a tenant attorney this morning. I'd like to handle the lease matter properly and professionally. Could you provide your current income documentation? If you've maintained steady employment over the past year, there may be a path to transfer the lease solely to you. I'd prefer that we keep all communication in writing moving forward. He responded within 15 minutes. He had received a promotion in September, and his income now exceeded the landlord's requirement for a solo lease. He seemed relieved. I'll contact property management today, he wrote. For what it's worth, I wasn't involved in what happened at Christmas. I wasn't there, and I believe it was wrong. I appreciated that, even if I didn't say it directly. At 11:04 a.m., my phone rang from an unfamiliar number with an Atlanta area code. I answered. Is this Marcus? This is Detective Carolyn Whitfield from Fulton County. I'm following up on a report made this morning. There was a brief pause. Are you aware that your mother contacted our non-emergency line to report what she described as a theft of services related to account cancellations? I stood by the hotel window, looking out at the parking lot. I'm sorry, what? I want to be clear, she said in a calm, neutral tone, that this call is a courtesy, based on the complaint and the account structures, all under your name and funded by you. I do not consider this a viable case. Everything appears to fall within your legal rights as the account holder. My mother struck me, I said, yesterday on Christmas Day, in front of multiple family members. A brief pause. Do you want to file a report for that? I hadn't seriously considered it until that moment. The instinct to protect family, even when they have failed you, is persistent and not always rational. Yes, I said after a few seconds. I think I do. Detective Whitfield, who mentioned her 17 years of experience in passing, took my statement over the phone. She explained that simple battery in Georgia is a misdemeanor, and with several witnesses present, there would be a clear factual record. She would open a report, and whether it progressed further would depend on my decision. For now, she said, having the report on file is what matters. Thank you, I said. Take care of yourself, she replied. And Merry Christmas. I gave a small, brief laugh. You too, I said. Between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. on December 26th, my mother called 47 times. My father called 22 times. My sister sent 31 messages, which I documented in a folder labeled, because I still have a sense of humor, evidence. The messages followed a clear pattern. First, confusion. What happened to the phone plan? Netflix isn't working. Then, assumption of error. Marcus, something must be wrong with your accounts. Can you call us? Then impatience. Why aren't you responding? This is ridiculous. Then negotiation. Whatever happened yesterday, we can talk about it. Just fix the accounts. Then my mother's voice appeared in my sister's messages, noticeable because the formatting changed. Marcus Raymond Carter. Call this house immediately. This is your family, and you are acting immature. Then threats. We can't drive without insurance. Your father has a doctor's appointment Thursday. If something happens, it will be your responsibility. Finally, my sister returned to her own tone. Okay, but seriously, what's going on? Are you okay? That last message stood out. Not because it resolved anything, but because it was the first that asked about me rather than the accounts. I didn't respond, but I noticed it. On December 29th, I met with a civil attorney named Jordan Ashby, whose office was in Midtown. He had a strong reputation for handling financial disputes involving family. I came prepared, with printed account statements from the past 36 months, screenshots of messages, a copy of the police report, and a detailed spreadsheet of every payment I had made on behalf of my family. I created it on Christmas morning in the hotel, which is apparently how I process stress. Jordan Ashby, 41 years old with 14 years of experience, listened without visible reaction. He took notes and asked precise questions. The credit card charges are significant, he said, reviewing the December statement. You added your mother as an authorized user for emergencies. There may be a case for misuse of authorization, especially given the amount. $4,847, I said. For a handbag. He noted it. And the police report. You have the case number? I handed it over. He reviewed it briefly. You're in a stronger position than most, he said. Most clients rely on memory. You have documentation. I'm a developer, I said. I document everything. He gave a slight nod. That will help. We spent 2 hours reviewing options. Recovering the credit card charges was possible, given the documentation and the clear misuse. The assault report was already filed. The lease situation, he agreed, could likely be resolved based on Derek's updated income and landlord approval. What outcome do you want? He asked. I thought about it carefully, not in terms of satisfaction or retaliation, but realistically. I want to be free of it, I said. All of it. The financial ties, the obligations. I want to rebuild my savings and have peace of mind. And I want them to understand that their actions had real consequences. He nodded. That's achievable. The landlord, Gray Line Residential, processed Derek's solo lease application within 8 business days. On January 9th, I received a formal, notarized letter, signed by Derek, confirming my release as co-signer. I read it several times, scanned it, and saved it in the evidence folder, which I then renamed Resolved. The credit card dispute took longer. I submitted a formal complaint on January 3rd with full documentation and a supporting letter from my attorney. On January 22nd, I received a response confirming that the $4,847 charge would be investigated as potential misuse. Within 10 days, the issuer issued a provisional credit while the review continued, noting that the charges did not align with the agreed emergency use and that I had withdrawn authorization before the billing cycle ended. The final outcome wasn't guaranteed, but the process was in motion. On January 15th, my father sent a message. Son, I'd like to meet for lunch if you're willing. Just us. I took a day to consider it. My therapist, Dr. Andrea Mensah, whom I had started seeing in early January after recognizing a pattern of financial enabling and suppressed resentment, told me the decision was entirely mine. What does your instinct say? She asked. My instinct says go, I said, but also to go cautiously. Both can be true, she replied. I met my father on January 18th at a diner near his home. He was already there. He looked tired, not performative, just genuinely older than I remembered. He didn't make excuses. He said, I should have spoken up. He said, I didn't know about the credit card. Then he added, that doesn't excuse me. He spoke plainly, without asking for forgiveness or shifting the conversation. I listened. I'm not ready to return to how things were, I said. I'm not closing the door, but I'm not reopening the old one either. He nodded. He paid for lunch and left first. I stayed for a while, thinking about how it's possible to care about people and still see their actions clearly, to hold both truths at once without allowing one to erase the other. On February 7th, the credit card dispute was fully resolved. The provisional credit became permanent. I received confirmation that the charge was classified as misuse of authorized access. $4,047 was credited back to my account. I transferred it to my savings and added an estimate of what I had spent supporting my family over 3 years: phone plans, subscriptions, insurance, and other costs. The total ranged between $23,000 and $28,000. I looked at the number briefly, then closed the file, not because it didn't matter, but because it mattered enough. In late February, my sister contacted me directly. I know you may not want to hear from me, she wrote. I should have said something that night, and I didn't. I don't have a good excuse. I benefited from what you were doing and avoided facing it. I'm sorry. I know that may not be enough. I read it twice. I waited 3 days before replying. It's a start. Give me time. She responded with a single word. Okay. That was sufficient for now. It is now April, 4 months since Christmas. I have a new credit card with no authorized users. I've established that as a permanent rule. My savings are growing again. My apartment, my own lease, in my name, is quiet in a way I've come to appreciate. I continue meeting with Dr. Mensah. We discuss boundaries, the difference between support and submission, and how I confused financial generosity with emotional security. The police report remains open. I haven't pursued it further, but I haven't closed it either. That decision remains mine. My mother has not contacted me since December. I'm not sure how to interpret that. Some days it feels like relief. Other days, it feels like loss. Dr. Mensah says both can exist at the same time. What I understand now is this. You can care about people and still hold them accountable. You can step away from a relationship without continuing to support it financially. You can sit alone in a hotel room on Christmas night, eating a simple meal and watching a movie, and feel something. Not happiness exactly, but something close to stability. Something that, over time, might become peace. I think often about that driveway, the cold air, the quiet lights, the moment I sat with my phone and made those decisions with clarity. What I had been doing wasn't generosity. It was something else, something I had mistaken for love because I didn't have a better word. Now I do. It was fear. Fear of being the one who stopped. Fear of saying, this isn't acceptable. Fear of the silence that followed. The same silence that met me when I walked out the door on December 25th and followed me all the way to a hotel room where, for the first time in 3 years, everything was in my name alone. I don't know what happens next with my family, but I do know this. I slept better that night than I had in years. And that, more than anything, made the situation clear.